Hi, I'm Christian Oakes White.
And I'm Avery Davidson. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week.
Hurricane Barry made landfall in Vermilion Parish on July 13th, almost 2 weeks ago. However, some farm fields remain flooded with rain from that tropical system.
Barry dumped between 10 to 15 inches of rain in bands from Allen Parish through Evangeline, St. Landry, Point Capee, Avoyelles, and Rapides parishes. Some farmers report receiving as much as 19 inches of rain over 10 hours in parts of their fields. This is a view of Bryce Taylor's fields in Plaucheville, where it looks like the soybean rows end. Well, they don't. The plants are just underwater, water left behind by Hurricane Barry. To see the damage firsthand, Commissioner of Agriculture and Forestry Dr. Mike Strain has to go by boat. Terrell Grimion is his guide.
3.5 feet. And these have 3. All this right here got 3.
Grimion shows Dr. Strain about 500 acres of flooded soybeans and corn, knowing that his neighbors in Avoyelles Parish are going to flood next.
This water is going down.
It's backing up on him.
And I don't see this water moving nowhere.
The rainfall, though, for the beans and the corn, that can be a disaster.
LSU Ag Center climatologist Jay Grimes says forecasters expected Hurricane Barry to dump lots of rain on Louisiana, just at landfall and farther to the southeast.
We anticipated double-digit rains while the storm was over top of us. Thankfully, those didn't materialize, but as the storm moved to the north, it still had that large-scale circulation that was pulling more Gulf moisture in, and that is what generated the rain band that produced that double-digit swath of totals we saw from parts of Avoyelles back into Acadiana.
Grimion says upwards of 19 inches of rain fell on these fields in 10 hours.
In the affected areas, it's pretty bad. You know, this is total loss and devastation.
Just north of Plaucheville, Avoyelles Parish Farm Bureau President Philip Lamartiniere rides to look at his 700 acres of rice. Fortunately for Lamartiniere, that rain collected in his fallow fields. Lamartiniere put pipes to stop the water from flowing out because he knows it would just drain to his neighbors' fields, and they can't take any more water.
Well, it came in so fast, and that's the thing. When Barry first came through, like Saturday, we think we had like 3.5 inches of rain. We're thinking, well, maybe we're gonna come out of this with, dodge the bullet. But we got one of those feeder bands that came in Sunday night, and that's what really dumped the rain on us. And that's when we came here, and we, of course, we see what we're seeing now.
And don't forget, the Atchafalaya is unusually high because the Mississippi is high. So you've got an environment here that is, especially with the 2 big drainage canals, rivers, the Mississippi and the Atchafalaya, both of those are way above normal for this time of year. So any drainage that has to get into the Atchafalaya is actually being inhibited by the fact that the river is already high.
Farther south, closer to where the Atchafalaya River empties into the Gulf of Mexico, sugarcane fields hold water. Iberia Parish farmer Ricky Gosselin and his brother have pumps to get the water out of this field now that the storm surge has gone down. However, the wind from Barry did affect the sugarcane.
We do have some damages. You have some leaves that are split and that need to be repaired. So the plant's gonna go into repair mode and start repairing. Therefore, we're gonna lose a little growth time out of this. Obviously, we're not close to harvest season, so the ultimate effect is yet to be determined. But what we're more concerned about now is getting started to plant the 2020 crop and getting that cane tall enough that we can put it in the ground. Right here, you'll see a stalk that's broken, and that stalk is no longer good. It'll have to start coming from the bottom and making a new stalk, which obviously does not have a lot of time before to make a millable stalk for grinding. So some good growing conditions from here on out and no more storms. This crop can recover to be somewhat of an average crop. Let's pray for the next couple of days of some good weather, and we'll see with this crop. It's very resilient, so I'm very optimistic on what can happen in the near future.
There is some good news. In a recent speech, U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Sonny Perdue outlined a bill coming before Congress that would provide disaster assistance to farmers for storms in 2018 and 2019. The figure brought up was $3 billion, but no word yet on how the USDA would split that money. Obviously, we'll have more to come in the coming weeks, but Kristen, I know that you're dealing with this issue as well. I mean, y'all had water on Landon's fields pretty significant.
Well, the crazy story was, you know, it was supposed to come ashore Friday night, then it was Saturday. It never actually hit. So from, I would say, Friday evening until Sunday night, we got an inch of rain. That was it. And then Sunday night, we had 10 inches of rain in Concordia Parish. So
wow.
It happened fast, and it happened all at one time. So.
And right now it's got nowhere to go, and that's going to be the follow-up story that we're going to do here, is that the drainage from this is really, really tough. Y'all have a tough time trying to get water off too.
Yes, we've got the drainage that everybody else is sending our way. So from Verity, you know, Vidalia, it's all heading south. And so, and the ground was pretty saturated to begin with, so.
Well, fortunately, Barry was not the powerful storm we thought it could be. You saw just several farms and ranches in South Louisiana left with unwanted floodwaters.
This week, TWILA's Tammy Arender introduces us to a farmer and rancher in Northeast Louisiana who left his fields to come to the aid of those in Hurricane Barry's path.
Alan Leonard decided to pick his purple hull peas a couple of days early.
You know, this crop needs another day, maybe another 2 days to full maturity. But just like the guys that were picking cotton last year and corn, rice, when you go, sometimes you got to go with 75%.
This pea patch is part of his vegetable and cattle farming operation in Fairbanks in Ouachita Parish.
We're going to go put this hydraulic pump back on the picker and we'll be back.
The last thing Leonard needed was a broken down pea picker. He was frantically working to harvest his purple hulls before the rains came in.
Watchy.
The rain is not even the biggest reason Leonard needed to get his peas picked. He needed to finish prepping his airboat and other equipment so he could head to South Louisiana and those preparing for Hurricane Barry.
Those that take the brunt of these catastrophes are usually the poor, the children, the sick, and the elderly.
Leonard is a volunteer with the Cajun Navy. His airboat must be running properly before he gets to ground zero.
Pulled a bunch of people out, and the last people we pulled out, we lost our motor.
Leonard takes his airboat, his refrigerated truck, and his military truck, all items normally used on the farm, to the most flood-stricken areas.
You know, you pick somebody up on the boat, you pick somebody up in the truck, and it's an elderly person, and they've got a Walmart bag with 100 pills in it and insulin. They took everything out of the refrigerator. Well, if you don't get it back refrigerated, it's over.
When he gets first wind of a natural disaster, he gears up, packs up his chainsaws and his patriotism, and heads that way.
You know, we're not there to cowboy it or rodeo it or do something like that. We're there to show up when they see what we have and how we handle ourselves and say, look, here's what we got. Use us where you need us.
Leonard knows when he loads up and leaves the farm and his family in Monroe that he's rolling away from his responsibilities at home. But he also knows he's setting an example.
Whether you're taking hay to farmers in Nebraska or pushing, you know, tornado damaged material out of some obscure town in Mississippi, it just becomes second nature, you know. And, you know, if the kids didn't see me go, that's when I'd worry what they thought about me and the example I'm setting.
Leonard has performed rescue missions in nearly every natural disaster in the southeastern United States since Hurricane Katrina in 2005. Farmer, rancher, hero.
Leonard was also part of the past week's Discovery Channel documentary about the Cajun Navy. We'll link you to that on our website at twilatv.org.
Western Louisiana is known for its pine trees and the beautiful Toledo Bend area. However, one veteran with a decorated past is making a go of it as a vegetable farmer there, thanks to an NRCS program.
TWILA's Neil Melanson takes us to Vernon Parish to show us why a man who's been all around the world is growing something new right here at home.
Vernon Parish has pine trees galore, but something else is growing near the town of Hornbeck. Freddie Maines has been on this property growing the vegetables folks buy every day at farmers markets for the last 4 years. He's got a variety of items like tomatoes and sweet corn, but also ornamental flowers like these gladiolas. The variety of what he grows is a challenge he welcomes.
If you name it as a green, we'll try to grow it, you know, whether it sells or not, we don't care sometimes. I mean, we'll try it. Arugula, last year we planted some arugula, which actually sold well. I'd never grown any.
Maines is used to challenges. His early path in life kept him from farming, but led him into the military, where he traveled the world serving our country in the United States Marine Corps.
One of them was for just a period where, as a squad leader, I guess I participated in several events. We did a congressional demonstration, and I was part of that.
In fact, this used to be a so-called man shed where he kept all his military memorabilia. These days, though, it's serving to keep track of his soldiers in the greenhouses.
The whole time I was in the Marines, I would always read about, I don't know if you ever heard of Rodale's Press's Organic Gardener. I got that magazine for 20 years, and I would read every article, and we'd try things in the backyard. And so when we retired, the first thing we did was we had a big garden.
Maines says his wife was a better Marine than he was. She says to make it through the tough times, you just had to be tougher.
I would rather have had to face a bullet coming at him. He knows how to handle that. A mob coming at you is an entirely different scenario, and for us at the house, it was terrifying.
In the meantime, Maines is enjoying the fruits of his labor, whether it's these roses on the property or a quiet moment with Patty. For This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, I'm Neil Malasa.
If you're interested in how these NRCS programs can help you, visit our website at twilatv.org.
By the way, the NRCS has recently named 11 states as eligible for almost $218 million in conservation easements in areas that frequently flood. Louisiana is among those states, and we'll be following this story as we get more details. We all visit grocery stores on a regular basis. It's where we get all the fruits of our farmers' hard work. Of course, we're all familiar with the big names like Walmart, Target, Albertsons, Piggly Wiggly, Brookshire's. However, there is at least a store near you that has a more local fare.
As TWILA's Carl Wigger shows us, one of those local stores has expanded from Melville, bringing some small-town charm to Mid-City in Baton Rouge.
Looking for a birthday card or rubber boots? What about some fishing hooks and a new oil filter for your lawnmower? You can find all of these things at Canatella's in Melville. This grocery store opened its doors in 1923, but according to Grant Canatella, that is not where this story begins.
Before 1923, there was from what we're told, there was a small little grocery store out in the country, a little further north here, where he was farming. So in 1923, came into town and purchased some property where the store exists now.
Now in the fourth generation of family ownership, this store is run by Brian and Grant Canatella. Grant says that it's taken perseverance to stay in business for this long.
And I'm sure they struggled, obviously, during the great flood of 27, the Depression years. And again, we find ourselves struggling a little also in our little community here.
One of the ways they've been able to stay open is with this kitchen. This is where Grant perfected his version of the muffaletta. That sandwich or other items like this lasagna or this Italian sausage are how this family plans to continue past the century mark in Baton Rouge.
One thing that we just recently done was opened a small location, a specialty store in Baton Rouge.
And we're still a small town business. I don't even think of Mid-City as the city. It seems like such a small community right here in the middle of the city. It's got a small neighborhood feel.
Grant's wife, Pam, manages the day-to-day at the new location in Mid-City Baton Rouge. She says the prepared food has really been a hit with locals in the neighborhood.
Lasagnas, eggplant parm, meatballs, and sauce or gravy, as we like to call it. So they're already prepared, and you just grab them, take them home, and heat them up at your convenience. So that's a really popular item here.
More than the items in the store, the family loves to share their story that begins in Italy, takes root on a St. Landry Parish farm, and continues today in Baton Rouge.
Canatella says they're also planning to add a couple of new sandwiches very soon. One that I'm excited about is the Porchetta Pete, which is named for Grant's father, Pete. If you'd like to plan your own visit to Canatella's, head over to our website at twilatv.org. And you guys, while I was there, I had to try the goods. I had to. The muffaletta is what they were talking about, and oh my goodness. They sell the olive spread, and I can see why. It was insane. It was so good. You got to go try one.
But you didn't just get that. You got something else to take home, didn't you?
I may have tapped into the old grocery budget just a little bit. I got some pork. They fillet a pork open and put cream cheese and jalapenos inside, and they put them back and wrap them up. That's going on the Traeger tonight, I'm pretty sure. And then I went to Melville, and I also had to leave. I left with some sausage, the mild and the hot sausage and the meatballs in red gravy. They call it gravy, but
right, yeah.
it's meatball and some. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to eat some of that. Everything looks so good.
Did you bring us back anything?
No, I didn't bring you anything. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were going to ask me that.
Yeah.
No, yeah, you didn't know. You knew that was coming.
I thought that was a line just for Neil, but no, I didn't bring you anything. I'm sorry.
Gimme.
Well, thank you very much, Carl Wiggers.
Well, we have some very sad news to share as we have lost another member of our Louisiana Farm Bureau family.
Stephanie Payne died the night of Monday, July 22nd, the result of a crash in Baton Rouge. Stephanie was the wife of Director of Field Services Tim Payne and was quite the motivator in her own right. Following the sudden and tragic death of their daughter, Savannah, less than 3 years ago, Stephanie began using her experience during that ordeal and as a school psychologist to speak to groups about surviving and thriving after tragedy. As someone who knew Stephanie, I can say we're going to miss her energy, her positivity, and just that presence that entered the room before she even walked in. We ask that you continue to pray for Tim and their daughter Isabella. Stephanie Payne was 51. One of the ways Louisiana's sugarcane industry stays on top is variety. I mean, it's all sugarcane, but varieties developed by the LSU Ag Center, including 2 new ones, are what give our cane growers a competitive edge.
TWILA's Craig Gautreaux went to the recent sugarcane field day to show us the future of the state's sweetest crop.
They are called L12-201 and HO12-615, and while these labels may seem nondescript, they could soon play a big role in Louisiana's $1 billion sugarcane industry. The letters and numbers represent 2 new sugarcane varieties being released to commercial growers this year.
Both of these varieties, 201 and 615, have a high sugar content. 615 is a very good stubbling variety, which is going to allow farmers to plant and keep their crop until a 3rd stubble.
Stubbling refers to a crop regrowing after its first harvest. Sugarcane growers typically get 3 to 4 crop cycles from their initial planting. New varieties are rigorously tested throughout the sugarcane belt and may take up to 12 years of research and testing before being released.
We bring the variety to 12 different locations, heavy and light soil, and once they make it that far, that's really the telltale sign if they're going to be able to make it through to that vote and become a commercial variety.
Louisiana has seen its acreage increasing on the northern and western fringes of the sugarcane belt. Consistency of yields and price stability have fueled the growth.
Sugarcane is also a very resilient crop, so it can take these weather conditions. We don't see a lot of fluctuation in our yields from year to year compared to some crops.
Hurricane Barry was a major concern as it approached landfall, but it appears it did not cause any major damage to the crop.
We had predicted sugar production statewide at around 1.8 million tons before the storm, and we think that 1.8 million tons is still very attainable even after the storm.
Mills are expected to begin grinding the cane early this season because such a large crop is out there. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gautreaux reporting.
One reason for the price stability you see in sugar are the agreements in place to prevent Mexico from dumping sugar in the United States, which has been a big issue in the past.
Louisiana farmers have become a little more vulnerable to lawsuits recently. A worker lawsuit against Harangue Farms yielded a $2.5 million settlement against that sugarcane farm that isn't covered by workers' comp.
The case has sent shockwaves throughout the Louisiana farming community. Fortunately, Brandon Davis, a labor and employment partner at Phelps Dunbar LLC, has some sound advice to help protect farmers against unfortunate situations like the Harangue case.
The question in the case is, could those 2 employees get coverage beyond Lowry's workers' compensation policy? Harangue claimed that its workers' compensation policy should also kick in to exclude them from an excess suit. The court determined otherwise because Harangue was not listed as a statutory employer in the contract. I think the Harangue case with Farm Bureau is a signal to farmers and agribusinesses in Louisiana that the landscape has changed. The Fifth Circuit has given a very clear indication that workplace injuries may not be covered under workers' compensation exclusivity the way many farmers would expect, unless they take specific action to make sure that their work is covered under the express scheme that's already been promulgated by the Louisiana legislature.
We have a full story on both the case and its aftermath on our website at twilatv.org. Still to come on TWILA, a young boy's passion for cattle helps defy his disability and inspires hearts from coast to coast.
The TWILA Boost is up next. Stay with us. I think after this week, we could all use a much-needed boost, Kristen.
I could not agree with you more. Last week, nearly 900 youngsters from across the country traveled to Louisville, Kentucky for the National Junior Angus Show. But there is one young showman who continues to inspire the entire organization every time he makes his way into the ring. 13-year-old Alec Gatto of Dyersville, Iowa may have limited mobility, but he has a passion for Angus cattle and the determination to let nothing stand between him and the show ring.
This young man is an inspiration to us all. Just one of those special moments, and that's what this is all about here today.
I had a few nephews that showed 4-H a few years ago, and Alec come up to me and said he wanted to show 4-H, and it was something I kind of blew off at first and didn't know if it would happen, but he was determined enough that he kept asking, and I said, well, we'll try breaking one. We were lucky enough to get one broke last year, and I didn't know if it would happen 2 years in a row, and sure enough, we got him to break again, just like we did last year.
The kid is stubborn, to be honest with you. If he wants to do something, he will do it. And we just go with it. We let him do it.
Tell us all about Junior Show. What did you do there?
Show and fun.
What did you show at Junior Show?
My steer.
And what's his name?
JD.
JD? What does JD stand for?
John Deere.
What do you like about JD? What's your favorite thing about him?
Freedom.
There's a special young man in this class.
Yeah.
And he's leading his steer a little different way.
Yes, he is, but he's doing a good job.
He's doing an awesome job, and so's the steer.
Yeah.
When Alec's in the show ring, it's kind of, I don't know, for me it's a blur.
It's hard to explain. I was bawling, crying my eyes out. I don't know, it's just exciting. I always get goosebumps when he's in there.
You know, you're just caught up in the moment. It's something I wouldn't trade for anything. JD broke himself to be on the halter. It's kind of how it happened. It's just one of those things that it just happens. I don't know. We're lucky. He's lucky, I guess. We're lucky. They trust each other before we even go and start working with them.
Whenever Chad and I will try and take one of them and lead it, they'll be Bucky. But when Alec gets right up next to it, it's as calm as can be. It's so weird. They just have this special connection.
In 2017, Alec's friends and family set up a foundation called Tracks for Alec to raise money for an all-terrain wheelchair with tracks to help him move around the barn. The group has raised more than $35,000 to help Alec and the Grotto family. Well, that does it for this edition of TWILA. Be sure to join us next week when we'll show you more from the aftermath of Hurricane Barry as we move into harvest season for many Louisiana crops.
Until then, you can watch all of our stories online at twilatv.org or by subscribing to our YouTube channel. Also, be sure to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram.
For all of us here at TWILA, thanks for joining us. We hope to see you again right here next week.